Hey y'all, it's your girl Free Monique. Hope you are doing well. So I wanted to dedicate this time to make a video about going back to school as an adult because this is a huge journey, and I know a lot of us have decided later in life that we want to go back to school. Some of us have had some more serious situations happen where perhaps you were in a long relationship and that relationship held you back from going to school, or you could have been part of a high control group like how I was. There are other people who have not gone back to school or gone to school at all, considered it for various reasons having to do with living in poverty. When you are living in poverty and you're living in an environment where you're not seeing models or examples of people who have been successful with going to school and pursuing higher education, a lot of the time you may not even consider that, to be an option, or you may not see the immediate benefit for going. So I know that during COVID, a lot of people decided to go back to school later in life. They're much older and they said, you know what, I think I'm just going to take this time to focus on me and, get this certification, or, go on and get this associate's degree or even a master's or a PhD. And so I thought it would be good and appropriate and helpful to make a video about this journey, the journey that I went on to finally go back to school. So here we go. I'm going to start off first things first. Um, as I mentioned, right, I was part of a isolated religious community. I'm going to respectfully call it that. I think that, I've taken a lot of time to process what I went through, and I recognize that it was a socially isolated religious community. And so, in that community, one thing that we were taught was that pursuing higher education in this world at this time would not be appropriate because you're using your time for something that makes you feel like you're going to live your lifetime in this world, when they were expecting, the end of the world to happen right away. And so, it was an act of faith to not pursue higher education. People who pursued higher education in that um, isolated community, they would not receive certain privileges because, the leaders, I'll call them the leaders, believe that they were putting too much on their plate and they're not showing their full faith in the doctrine. And so I was a part of that mindset, that belief. And I it took a while to get to the point where I had to realize that it was urgent, that I needed to step into school right away. I needed to pursue college. Why? Because I knew that my career trajectory was going to depend on it. I'm a person who loves performing arts. I made a career out of performing arts, so theater and film, and also working in the field of human services. I'm super passionate about public health, human services, social work field. And so both of those fields tend to not really be high paying, on the money end. And so the people who do tend to be more successful in these fields have the degrees, they have the certifications to back them up. And it's really difficult to finesse, right? Like, you can't just be going in places and saying, oh, I'm this person and yay, hire me and I'm perfect for you. And then they want to just hire you and give you this nice salary, living at least a living wage. They won't, half of the time. I had to really climb my way. And so I hit a point in 2013 where, and around this time, this is me in my mid 20s. So, um, you know, my math is terrible, but at 25 years old, I left the isolated religious community that I was a part of. And then there was this 5 year span where I was in a ball of confusion, and I was disoriented, right? I did not know what I was going to do. I just knew I had to survive. So I was just really trying to survive. I had my entire community, my social community was gone. I had to completely rely on the world, right? And so the world individuals in the world. I slowly started to get to know some people. They got to know me. I began to make friends. And then from there, I slowly started to piece together what the world was about and how things worked. And one thing that I found out pretty quickly was that education is what needs to be on my checklist of things to do. If I don't pursue this education, I'm going to be broke forever. And so I've got to get on this train. And so 2013, I walk up to the community college and I'm completely clueless on how to navigate this process. I was under the impression that you had to have financial aid in order to go to school. Otherwise, you couldn't go to school. I didn't realize that people could just literally pay outright and go. I thought it was a requirement. Well, there was a time, there was a brief break in during the 25 years I was part of that isolated religious community where I did try to pursue higher education, and this was down in Atlanta, and I was completely clueless about what I was doing, wasn't there very long for school, and I completely left to fully join the religion. My story is long. That's for another time, another video. But that situation kind of messed things up when I got to this point in 2013 because I had all the student loan debt. I had amassed over, at this point, around 60, almost 70 something $1,000, and it was all compounded interest, student loan. In addition to owing the government financial aid, they were garnishing my wages at this point. So I thought that that would hinder me from being able to go back to school. Fortunately, I found out that it was okay. I could still try to go back to school. I would just have to pay out of pocket to get things started. And so I had to make peace with that because remember, I was struggling. I was working at this time about 3 jobs. I was waitressing. I was working for an elementary school, teaching theater, doing theater stuff. I was doing little odd jobs here and there. I was doing home health care, CNA kind of work. And so I had to get together my little ducats and pay for that first class. I believe it was $500. And they put that on a payment plan. So I was able to pay, piece by piece. And so that got the ball rolling. Once I took that class, actually it was 2 classes. I took those first 2 classes. I got A's in those classes. The minute I got the grades in, and I just was, playing around online, just trying to figure out how I can get funding. I tried to do my FAFSA application again, and guess what? It said I was eligible. So I was able to get financial aid to cover the rest of the year to work towards an associate's degree. So I decided to go ahead and pursue an associate's degree and load up the classes. Here's the thing. I got really excited and said, oh yeah, I can do all these classes, but I still have to work. And at that time, I wasn't going to school online. That just kind of wasn't a thing yet. And so I had to reduce my classes back to it just being the 2 classes. And I was doing 2 classes at a time. And so did that. And then I decided to pursue human services associate's degree, and then I changed my major in the middle of all that, switched over to liberal arts because, to be honest, it was less amount of time and it had all similar classes, so why not? Switched over, and here's the thing. I want you to think about what the journey is of a person who it already has a poverty mindset. I come from a low income background, been in public housing my whole life. Lived in a project, also in a project in the middle of a suburb, which is an entirely different experience, but still a lot of similarities. I had to, one, get my brain wrapped around college, but 2, I had to still survive, and I had to feed myself. I had to pay for a room. I was renting a room in someone's house. I had to drive, right? Because the state that I lived in, it wasn't like we had the subway to take everywhere. Guess how long it took me to finish this associate's degree? It took me 9 years. 9 years to finish this associate's degree. But when I tell you, once I got that piece of paper, and this was at the start of COVID, I was so happy. It was like the best day of my life when I saw that email come through. And I was on a roll. I had gotten accustomed to now doing school online because COVID had started, and I had to do a couple of hybrid classes before COVID started. So I was getting acclimated to the whole, taking some of the classes partly online, and then everything switched fully online. And so I got used to it. I adjusted, I pivoted, and I'm so grateful that I did, because then I was able to really load on my classes to speed up the process. And so I'm just so grateful. Now, I was on a roll. I was like, okay, I graduated in May. I'm signing right up for another online program that is really adult friendly and understands continuing students' needs, alternative students' needs. And I decided to choose Charter Oak State College, which is actually based in my home state of Connecticut. And their college is completely online, and it's super friendly for adults and continuing education students. When I tell you, the professors, they know how to communicate with the students for the most part. I'll say for the most part, they understand their needs. The only thing that is a little bit tricky is kind of navigating what classes you're going to take. Even though you get assigned a counselor to work with, you really have to be your own advocate. So you've got to really study like what their offerings are, and then figure out what classes you should be taking by a certain time, because not all classes are offered year round. So you've got to kind of play this, you got to put the puzzle together and figure out how your year is going to play out. I started off with 2 classes just to get used to it, because there's a different groove when you move on to your bachelor's. It's more work, and the material is I think a lot more different, right? Like, I wouldn't say that the associates is like elementary level, but it is easier. It is. With the when you start to pursue your bachelor's, you cannot play around with cited sources. You've got to cite your sources. You can't just be saying things, and I love that, because it makes you think critically. You're not just coming up with your opinions and offering that and calling it a day. You have to back up what you're saying, and you have to do it in a way where you have a strong beginning, middle, end. It's a lot like theater. It's a lot like writing a play. So that really resonated for me. I thought that was good. We did a lot of discussion posts. That's really common in online college. You do your discussion posts. You turn in an assignment once a week. You do your discussion posts twice a week. So you're putting an answer to whatever question the professor has asked, and then you're responding to your peers. So it kind of forces this socialization, which, I mean, yeah, sometimes it could get a little bit annoying, especially if you have to do group projects. But for the most part, I got used to it, right? So I decided to pursue American Studies. Reason why I decided to pursue a bachelor's in American Studies is because I felt like I did not fully, truly understand the world around me. Remember, I was in an isolated religious community for 25 years with a mindset for 25 years that is very different from everything else. And I learned that it was different when I left. Okay. Like, I just kept getting hit with things that just affirmed that the common denominator is me. I'm the one with something wrong with her. Okay. Because just everything about the way people were thinking, how they make decisions, how they conclude certain things, how they form relationships was so foreign to me, was so different. I had to literally unplug. And in order to fully unplug, I think school was super helpful for me to do that, because it forced me to socialize with other individuals. It forced me to look at information I wouldn't have otherwise. And that organization, you can only look within their material. They said, this is college, and we know that's not the case. And so, using those critical thinking skills, socializing with your peers, learning how they think, picking their brain, And then just, you know, writing full essays and putting together projects about American history and America as a whole, and like understanding the political landscape as well. It put everything into perspective for me in nice little boxes. I got to see, truly see the world. I saw how we compare to other countries. I got to see what happened when Africans were brought over here to America, what chattel slavery was versus spoils of war slavery. There's a huge difference there. This is important to me because my father is a Black man, right? So I'm a Black woman. I am a Black French woman. This is very important to me. It helps me cement myself. It helped me to understand my family's story and my family's roots beyond anecdotal stuff from my family, right? So this is why school is important. It's because it helps you to understand the world around you, and it helps you to think critically. It helps you to be skeptical too. It helps you to side eye a couple things if there's not enough information. If there's no sources cited, you need to be side eyeing. You need to be debating. You need to be challenging things that don't make sense. Because real talk, people will manipulate you. They will manipulate you because it unfortunately is a part of human nature. And some people have not outgrown certain tendencies from childhood that were toxic. Now I'm talking psychology. When you take psychology courses, you will see, right? Manipulation is real. Okay. A lot of people are messed up. And so you've got to understand the world around you. Yes, the world can be great, but the world can be very bad and it can mess you up. So you've got to know who you are. You've got to cement yourself. All right, let me get off my soapbox because you know how I get when I start feeling really passionate about certain things. All right, so let's move on. So then it took me 2 years to finish the bachelor's because I wasn't playing. 2 years. I said, no, I'm not doing 4 or 5 years, taking all these classes, and I want to finish. And so I put together a nice plan, finished everything online. It was very manageable for me. One, because I had the fire to do it, but two, I got used to their process and I knew that I could manage reporting to 4 classes in a semester, turning in assignments once a week for each class, doing 2 discussion posts for each class. That was very manageable. And so I walked, got my bachelor's degree. I did a little short on it. You can see me on stage, and that was just a tremendous experience. It was a huge accomplishment because it took me so long, but I finally got it. It definitely helped, when it comes to my employment, because like I told you, trying to work in this field of human services, social work, public health, it's very hard to climb the ladder when you don't have those degrees. And so now, next steps is working on my master's degree. I'm working on my master's degree, Community Health and Prevention Science. That's the name of the degree. It's a Master of Science degree. I'm getting that degree because I want to make creative prevention programs. I want to take my theater and performing arts and film world and public health and merge them together. This has been a dream of mine for a long time because I'm an advocate at heart. I'm very fiery. I want to affect change. I want to problem solve. I want to help people who are just like me. And so one of the vehicles, my vehicle of choice for that has to be through creativity, because I feel like that's what taps into people's senses. So in order to really be able to do that and be able to mobilize, to move around in this field the way that I want to do it, I've got to have my degrees, got to have that master's. And so that's what I'm doing right now. The online degree that I am pursuing is with University of Cincinnati. So if you're interested, by all means, look them up. I love their platform. It's really user friendly for adults. Highly recommend it, highly suggest it. And even just the whole admissions process was pretty easy. And so, yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But that really is, in a nutshell, my journey. I'm finally here. And there's just only better things can come. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this was inspiring or gave you some ideas. And if you're pursuing college, please drop a comment. Let me know what you're doing, what major you chose. Let me know if you're struggling with going back to school as an adult, because there are many obstacles that can come up on your path, because life is lifing, right? Like there's kids, there's work, there's all these other commitments and things. And so I'm here to be a sounding board if you want to, drop a comment. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I will be adding more videos to my channel pretty soon, and I look forward to speaking with y'all. All right, have a good one. Peace.